So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting this evening. Today is Monday, September 23rd, and this is the 16th meeting of the year so far. So please stand if you're able for the singing of O Canada, presented tonight by Karen Christian School. Thank you. So before beginning the business of this evening, I would like to advise the public of the following. Comments from the public for a matter that is on the agenda may be provided in person by attending the meeting and advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section of the agenda. Or two, for those individuals that are unable to attend the meeting in person, you may submit comments for matters that are on the agenda by either, one, emailing jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted will be considered as public information and be part of the public record. Or two, by contacting the clerk's department to request a Zoom link to attend the meeting virtually. And thirdly, tonight's council meeting will be live streamed as well as recorded and available on the township's website. So we begin our meeting as always with the land acknowledgement statement. The township of West Lincoln, being part of Niagara Region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Ondoroq, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Okay, so Councillor Riley, you have the opening petition this evening.
I do, Madam Mayor. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Members of Council, are there any changes in order of items on the agenda for this evening? And seeing none, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest? And again, seeing none. An item on our agenda that's a standing item is a request to address items on the agenda. Requests to address items on the agenda are restricted to specific items as follows per section 6.7 of the procedural bylaw. And that reads that there shall be no comments from the public permitted at council unless A, a specific appointment has been scheduled, or B, an item is included under the other business or communications or appointment section of the agenda and relates to a matter which would normally be dealt with at committee. Are there any members of the public present who wish to address a specific item on the agenda as permitted by section 6.7 of the procedural bylaw? And seeing none, Kevin, is there any?
Not seeing any, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. So there are no appointments or presentations this evening, and Regional Councillor Witteveen is away on a well-earned vacation out of the country, and so there are no Regional Councillor remarks this evening, and that takes us right away to confirmation of minutes. So Councillor Bradrick, you have the council minutes for August 12th?
Yes, Mayor, I do. Thank you. Moved by myself that the minutes relating to the August 12, 2024 Council includes all committees meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted.
Thank you. Someone to second those? Councillor Trombetta, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? It
I
seems
have
like
a-
a long time ago that we did August 12th.
So I have a question, Madam Mayor, just a refresher. So I was not able to attend the August 12th. I was out of town on business, and so you guys had to deal with a couple of matters, one in confidential there, that I was not able to participate in. Can I still vote to just receive this? So it's through you to the clerk.
To the clerk.
Through the mayor to Councilor Riley. So that would be for the special counsel
Okay.
immediately following this.
following?
You will not be able to vote for that one.
Okay,
However, for this one, you will be able to vote as there was no public meeting.
perfect. When that, so again, Madam Mayor, this is back to you, to our clerk. When that matter comes up, do I just disclose it as a conflict, or do I disclose it as that I was not at that meeting, so I cannot participate? How would you want that addressed?
Okay, so I think, Mr. Clerk, it's certainly not a conflict.
I know it certainly isn't a conflict, but I don't know, how do I remove myself from that part?
Through the mayor to Councilor Riley, it sort of is a conflict in the sense that you won't be a no vote, you would just be recused from voting there.
So I'll just disclose it as a conflict, I guess, for a
But does-
procedural side?
So I need to ask a question to the clerk as well then, Counselor. So a form would need to be filled out for that?
It is a public
Stating that you
meeting.
were absent from the meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
It is a public meeting, technically, so you would need to fill out a form, and it would be,
Just a statement that I was not at the meeting?
and that is why you're not voting. It is not technically a no vote, it is just a recusal of voting.
I think that's the first time we've had to deal with that, so
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question and well answered, thank you, yeah. Okay, so let's go back to our council minutes then. We have a mover and a seconder. Are there any questions or comments about those? Okay, so I think, seeing none, we're ready for the vote. So the vote should be in front of you, members of council. Did everybody get it? Mike, did it come up to you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and that carries. So 9.2, special council minutes, is the portion that Councillor Riley was referring to. Councillor Chichok, you have that motion, please?
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the minutes related to the August 12th special council meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the August 12th, 2024 special council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with exemptions provided. You're such a in section 239 of the Municipal Act. Thank you.
It's not good when that last little piece of the sentence is on
My
another
colleague thought it
page.
would be better to read his hard copy, but
Okay.
obviously he only
So
gave me
since we
page
worked,
one.
Councillor Rayner, from your copy, would you second that resolution, please? Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, at this time, I will disclose the conflict that I was not at that meeting, so I cannot participate in this vote.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Riley. And I do. Yeah. So that requires a form here.
Thank you. I'll bring it right back.
Okay, thank you. So once we have the technicality looked after, are there any other questions or comments? I don't think there's anything that really can be discussed since it was a special council meeting. We'll let Councillor Riley do his declaration, and I think the vote is up whenever you're ready, Mr. Clerk. Okay. Okay. Councillor Chichok? Okay, so that also carries without Councillor Riley having voted, so. So number 10 on our agenda are communications, and the communication was from the Ontario Ombudsman, and the final report came forward, and so we have a motion related to that as well. Councillor Bradford.
Yes, moved by myself that the Ontario Ombudsman final report dated September 18th, 2024, and the recommendations therein be accepted.
Okay, someone to second that, please? Councillor Trombetta, thank you. Are there any questions or comments about that resolution? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Clerk? Oh, wait a minute, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to sound like the fire department, but this is like over a year since this happened. Is this normal by the time this came out? The took a while to remember what the subject matter was about because it was such a long time ago. I mean, if something's going to be relevant, I could see its importance getting back, but this is almost like it got lost in the paper shuffle and all of a sudden it got done and now we're going to send it. But this is so long past the incident and it's not going to happen again. So why even bring it up anymore? If you could have been helpful, you could have done it in a timely manner. And since you didn't, why'd you bother communicating back to me at all? Unless there's a legal requirement that you have to, in which
I think you
case we have
just hit
to
on it,
accept it.
Counselor, that there is a legal requirement.
Well, isn't there a legal requirement also to do it in a timely manner that would be effective and efficient and relevant to what we're dealing with?
One would think so, but that's not
Thank
the
you.
way it happened. So it does seem like a very, very long time ago.
It was August of 2023.
It was. So members of the public who might be listening, some will remember that there was a tri-council meeting with the 3 municipalities. It was very timely at the time. It was done in what we felt was an appropriate manner. But someone who does not need to be named ever, like we have no idea, someone reached out to the ombudsman to ask for that to be investigated. And just since we're talking about it, it did take a very long time for the report to come back. And it came back with 6 recommendations, 2 each to Lincoln, Grimsby, and ourselves. And each of them are the same. And so the one for Township of West Lincoln states, all members of council for the Township of West Lincoln should be vigilant in adhering to their individual and collective obligation to ensure that the township complies with its responsibilities under the Municipal Act. And the second was an interesting one because each of the 3 clerks of the municipality defer, the 2 who were the least experienced defer to the clerk who was the most experienced to actually clerk that meeting. But they did it in an oral fashion. So the recommendation number 6 for us was, which was only our second recommendation, the clerk for the Township of West Lincoln should ensure that their duties are delegated in writing to the individual who will act as clerk for any future joint meetings between 2 or more municipal councils. So, yes, it took a long time. We're doing our due diligence by doing this tonight and saying we're finished with it, and that's it. Thank you.
It's nice to know, Madam Mayor, that our tax dollars are hard at work. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from, but in any case, let's vote on this and be done with it, please. And that resolution also carries. And that takes us to number 11, the mayor's remarks. And they are not 12 pages, but there's a fair bit to say. So, since our last meeting of all committees and council on August 12th, our West Lincoln community, like other communities, has experienced the birth of new babies, the weddings of loved ones, and the loss of friends and neighbors of varying ages due to both serious illnesses and accidental causes. Our warm and supportive community have rallied around all in whatever circumstances have arisen, happy and sorrowful alike. When an increased need for back-to-school necessities was made known, members of the general public, and in particular our local service club, Kiwanis of West Lincoln, came to the rescue with a very generous donation to West Lincoln Community Care's backpack program, thus allowing for more than 100 children to have a great start to their new school year. I regularly marvel at the warmth, caring, and generosity of our West Lincoln community that is routinely demonstrated in so many and varied ways. Shortly after our August council meeting, several members of council and our CAO attended the AMO conference held in Ottawa and were able to delegate to parliamentary assistants and ministers regarding the water, wastewater infrastructure needs of our community. As a municipality, we have waited patiently to hear if we were successful in acquiring a provincial grant to help with the costs associated with necessary water and wastewater infrastructure that would allow for housing starts in the Northwest Quadrant in particular. Unfortunately, due to the high number of applications, and in spite of a well-written grant application, we have recently learned that we were not successful. A second intake deadline for that same provincial grant is coming soon, and staff are once again working diligently to strengthen our application with the hope of being successful this time. As September rolled around and students and parents fell back into routine, so too did council, staff, and our various citizen committees. During the past weeks, various councillors have been involved in the West Niagara Fair in many different aspects. The Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee is holding its holiday card artwork contest during the month of September and have delivered their handmade posters to our local schools. The Age-Friendly Advisory Committee has resumed meetings for the 24-25 season, as has the West Lincoln Library Board. As is true for all township committees, guests are always welcome, and to that end, the Road 12 Landfill Committee, at their meeting last week, welcomed a couple of guests and showed off their new and streamlined processes to support current customer service, especially in regard to yard brush and branches being brought to the site. They additionally reported on the various changes that will allow for that site to last for close to another 30 years. That is amazing and most welcome news, especially as the lifespan of that landfill site, thought to be approximately 25 years, would have run out in 2020 if not for the excellent stewardship of the site by both regional staff and the overall governance committee. We've had 2 flag-raising events in September, one being Miranda's Miracles in support of childhood cancer research, and the other being United Way. Niagara Peninsula Energy, Inc. held its official 24 AGM by Zoom and in person. Silverdale Hall held a very successful chili, soup, and corn dinner. Smithville held its 21st Terry Fox Run and raised the most money that this run has ever raised, just over $18,000 for cancer research. 20 View Farms held an amazing open house, serving dinner to over 200 people, and additionally used that opportunity to run a raffle to raise funds for West Lincoln Community Care. The Smithville Christian High School held a back-to-school family and friends barbecue, and as part of that event, showcased the pickleball courts, disc golf, and beach volleyball facilities that are open to the public after school and on weekends and holidays. They also officially opened a new space in a courtyard area for students that is dedicated to device-free activities and conversation. This past week included the annual Grape Grower Celebrity Luncheon with 2010 Canadian Gold Medal skeleton winner and host of the Amazing Race Canada, John Montgomery, as a very informative and entertaining guest speaker. Also this past week, there was a well-attended fundraiser celebrating the Penn Center's 65th anniversary that was designed to support Big Brothers and Big Sisters and Path Stone mental health for youth in particular. I would like to mention how pleased I am that when the nomination period for our Ward 3 by-election closed on Friday afternoon, we had 5 residents who have put their name forward indicating their willingness to represent their fellow residents on our council. This is not an easy decision for many to make. It requires recognizing the fact that you will need to sacrifice personal and or family time to the dedicated task of running an election campaign with the end goal of serving our community, and also acknowledging the realization that if elected, you will find yourself devoting even more personal time as you serve your community for the next 2 years. I sincerely thank those who have chosen to run in this Ward 3 by-election and wish each of them well as they begin to campaign. The final thing that I want to include in these remarks is in regard to our Community Recognition Awards. We've had several nominations in each of the various categories, and those nomination forms are still in the hands of the judges. Nominee names are not attached to the forms that the judges have received, and the 5 judges are not known to each other, so as to ensure that each nomination is judged independently and on its own merit. Those winners will be announced soon and will be honored at a community celebration in the library program room on October 22nd, beginning at 7 p.m. Upon reflecting upon our Community Recognition Award celebration of last year, our first after a hiatus lasting several decades, the committee has decided that 2 changes will be made this year. The first is that we will recognize both Ken Hunter and Lucienne Renee posthumously. Both gentlemen were nominated last year, and sadly both passed away at the end of June. Both Ken and Lucienne were once again nominated after their passing, as so many residents recognized the enormous degree of each of their contributions to the betterment of our community since each adopted West Lincoln as their home. My personal regret is that neither is with us to be recognized, and yet neither of these community-minded men did the things that they did in order to gain recognition. They were simply helping others in the community that they loved. The second change that we made came as we recognized that many longtime residents of our community have spent decades of their lives volunteering in various capacities to make our community stronger in so many ways. We felt that in playing catch-up after so many years, one winner was certainly not enough in a community where so many people volunteer their time in so many diverse ways. Most of those whom I'm about to name continue to volunteer in some capacity as their personal health and circumstances allow. We have therefore determined a new category, which we've called Lifetime Community Volunteerism Award. Each of these 5 people have been involved in various aspects of our community for decades and decades, and have made extremely positive impacts on the various residents of all ages with whom they have interacted. At the ceremony on October 22nd, we will speak more specifically about their individual contributions. However, it is my great privilege to release the following names. In the sports recreation category, we will be recognizing Milt Bolint for his generous and varied contributions to the betterment of sports and recreation endeavors in West Lincoln throughout his lifetime. In the general volunteerism category, we are pleased to recognize Joanne Battersby, Jean Acton, Joan Packham, and Clifford Travis. Each of these 4 have spent their entire adult lives giving back to their community in one way or another, particularly but not limited to the areas of history, culture, and agriculture. I look forward to being able to personally thank these 5 residents, in addition to those who are soon to be named by our judging panel, for all that they have done and continue to do to make our community better for all of us. It should be a lovely evening of food, laughter, and applause as we celebrate some very special members of the West Lincoln community, people who have been nominated by their peers, friends, and neighbors for the good work that they do or have done voluntarily for the benefit of others. I hope to see everyone at the Smithville Library at 7 p.m. on October 22nd as we celebrate the spirit of volunteerism in West Lincoln. All residents are, of course, welcome to attend. As none of the aforementioned things include our regular local council and regional meetings, or many of the other startup activities going on in the community at large, or events such as Harvest Roots and the Great Pumpkin Giveaway or the West Lincoln Chamber of Commerce Business Awards that are coming up soon, this fairly lengthy report is indicative of a very busy start to the fall season in West Lincoln. We are all involved and engaged in so many aspects of West Lincoln life, and that is, I feel, what makes our community so great. So that ends my remarks for now. And I do encourage anyone watching or listening, members of council, to come out on the 22nd to celebrate our residents. Okay, so that takes us to report of committees, and Councillor Riley, you have the Planning, Building, Environmental Committee minutes from September 9th.
I do, Madam Mayor. So moved by myself that the minutes relating to the September 9th, 2024 Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of September 9th, 2024 Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second those, please? Councillor Chichot, thank you. Are there any questions about the open portion of the meeting? Okay, seeing none, I think, Mr. Clerk? We're ready for a vote. Did everyone receive it? Good. Okay, and so that also carries. 12.2 are the Administration, Finance, and Fire Committee minutes from September 16th. And Councillor Trombetta, you have those.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the minutes relating to the September 16th, 2024 Administration, Finance, and Fire Committee meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the September 16th, 2024 Administration, Finance, and Fire Committee be accepted, and the minutes remain confidential and restricted from the public disclosure in accordance with exemptions provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you. Someone to second those? Councillor Bradrick, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the open portion of those minutes? Okay, seeing none, we're ready for a vote. And that resolution also carries. That takes us to 12.3, which are Public Works and Recreation Committee minutes from September 16th. And Councillor Rayner, you have that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the minutes relating to the September 16th, 2024 Public Works and Recreation Committee meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted.
Okay, thank you. And someone to second those, please. Councillor Riley, thank you. Any questions or comments about those minutes? I know they were very brief with just a couple of reports. All right. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk. And that also carries. We have no reconsiderations this evening and no notices of motion to rescind. So that takes us to 15 other business and members of council. So, Councilor Rayner, you can start, please.
Madam Mayor, if I can just make a comment, I kind of want to be proven wrong here. So I'm saying, I want council to prove me wrong. Over the years, the many years that I have done this position, they have gone to AMO every year with the optimistic viewpoint of trying to get something done for West Lincoln. And to me, in my mind, they were playing lip service to the political game of the MPPs and showing up and everybody looking really great and they're listening to us and all the rest. But bottom line, I always felt that nothing ever got accomplished by it. So I'm wondering, is it possible, and like I say, to prove me wrong, and hey, far from perfect, but could you list 3 items that were the most important things for West Lincoln? And can we bring them up every 3 months just to see how that's progressed and how the benefit of seeing the minister made a difference? Because over the years, I've never seen anything change other than, I guess they smile and I guess they'll look into it, but I don't think anything was done. Like I said, I could be wrong. But is there something we can do to follow the process? Because I know everybody gets excited and they want to see the minister and everybody's allocated 10 minutes, but there's 444 municipalities and the poor person's not going to remember the 105th visit during the afternoon when they're exhausted. So I don't know how it gets passed through, but I don't know if it even does get passed through. So is it possible we can have and you're a school teacher, we can have a little scorecard here and say, okay, let's see how well the students did, the students being the MPs, the MPPs, or whoever we were talking to there. How well have they listened to us and how well has that benefited us, spending the tax dollars going there, wherever it is? It's a faraway time. This was Ottawa. And, is it money well spent? Are we getting a bang for our buck? Or is this just, we're trying to get excited knowing we're going to get frustrated? Can we set 3 priority things that you went there for, because you're our leader, and let's review those 3 months from now and say, okay, how has Queen's Park come back to us and assisted us after they smiled and listened to us? I just want to know. Or am I just am I crazy? And no, we've got a ton of stuff done. I just don't recall what it was. But I don't ever remember anything being accomplished by it. So this would be a test. And not our test, it's their test. What did you go there for, and how well have they done 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now? And yes, did we finally get something for our effort going there, or are we just giving the smiles and the lip service? That's all I want to know.
Well, that's a big mouthful, but you have been given reports on what we were talking about in AMO since I've been involved.
I know.
So interestingly enough, we have been doing the same sort of thing over and over again. So I'm sure that some of the other councillors, and I know that our CAO wants to chime in, part of what you are addressing are intrinsic values, the networking that goes on, the kind of interaction with other councillors, with other municipalities, finding out what's going on in other municipalities is equally important to actually speaking with the ministers. You're right about the timing of that. It's 15 minutes, but it's very short. And we do a lot of work that goes into those reports that we can present. However, there is some benefit to that, but I will let the CAO speak first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, we find that the benefits in these delegations is the mayor had indicated, is often in building relationships, not just with the minister, but with the administrative staff accompanying the minister, the political staff accompanying the minister, and trying to create awareness of the issues that the municipality is facing. And rarely, in my experience at least, do you go into a delegation room and they say, good presentation, here's your check, now get it done. It doesn't work like that, and I think that the comments you were making show that is an understanding of the process. But the opportunity for municipalities or West Lincoln in general to bring forward those issues at the top of its agenda does help to shape the provincial government's agenda. From my experience, it's not immediate, it's not direct. You cannot necessarily draw a line from meeting A to exactly when things are going to happen, but there is a tremendous amount of value in establishing that face time and relationship and name recognition with cabinet members in trying to get your issue resolved. It certainly also helps our local MPP or MP if you're at the federal level in communicating those issues up. I've had, in the previous municipality I was in, for example, you beat that drum every year. The same minister begins to see you, and they begin to recognize, and eventually there's awareness from the minister of your issue if you keep up a solid lobbying campaign. And so, while you're correct, there's not A plus B gives you C next year. It does grease the wheels and help your issues become known at the cabinet table and typically represented in policy at some point, whether or not you end up being the successful recipient of the grant or not. Again, not direct, but it does influence the decision-making at the provincial level.
Madam Mayor, I understand what the CAO is saying, but can you therefore, in the last, well, since I've been doing this in 2003, can you give me one example of something that you went there for, and after 22 years of me sitting here, and I didn't know about it, but we got something that we went there for?
So-
The other thing is...
So let me just answer that,
Just quickly,
Councillor.
Madam Mayor. On Channel 11, the week before this happened, Mead Ward from Burlington and Horvath from Hamilton were saying, we've got to do something with these 10 people. This is driving us nuts. We've got to get support. And they went there saying, he's got to put money forward. He's got to do something. He said he was very blunt to the point today on TV. He was basically telling them, get off you. He said ASS and get to work if you can work. I was pretty impressed with that. But the point being, there was nothing said after the AMO about anything that the Premier was going to do to help these two cities who were vividly on Channel 11 saying, we need help, we need money, we can't continue to do this. It was totally ignored. So here's a huge item, as the CISO has mentioned, we got to get attention. It was in the TV, and there wasn't even a comment from the Premier on the subject matter that they were so hip on for the last week before they went there. So I got two questions for you then.
Well, let me
What
just-
happened
let me
to
just
that one,
answer
and what happened to the
something.
first one?
Let me just answer something. First of all, I think the CAO very clearly pointed out that it's a way of bringing those concerns. They also have at AMO a session where people can stand in line at several different microphones and ask specific questions to various cabinet ministers. And the Premier is not there at that particular one, but the ministers are all lined up. And people ask those questions. So the issue of what the mayor of Burlington and Hamilton, the kinds of things that they were asking is Canada-wide, it's worldwide in terms of what's going on with housing. So that's a major issue. Everybody that you talk to, everybody at every level of government is trying to figure out what's going on with that. There's no way they were going to give a direct answer to that. I'm going to back off to, I don't know, you have, I presume, have been to AMO in the past, so I don't know what things you may have brought forward that we could now say, oh, finally, they're looking at something.
That's why I'm asking.
Did you go, Councillor, to AMO?
No, I don't.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Done. So,
Okay,
no,
so
I
if
haven't.
you've
I just
not
wondered,
been,
is there
I had no
anything?
knowledge of whatever might have been asked in the past, in terms of going.
I
to
think
AMO.
that's.
I only know what
the
we've
only
been
reason-
asking.
The only reason I'm saying this, because I know Madam Mayor very well, and she does her homework, and she doesn't go anywhere without being prepared. So this was very time-consuming, a lot of research, a lot of work done, and a lot of positive feelings, bringing the people that wanted to come with you there to get something across that was very important to us. And I just want to know, is all that work in vain? Or did it go somewhere of some value, and has it done it in the past? And I just hate to see you bang your head against the wall feeling great going there and then coming home saying, well, that didn't get me anywhere.
Well, I don't-
And that's kind of what I think it is, and I feel bad for you doing that. And I feel bad that people go there thinking that this is going to be important because we can speak to the minister, when in reality, all you're doing is providing them lip service.
Okay, so no, we do not go anticipating this this great thing about going and speaking to the ministers. We go fully well aware that the best we can do is to help them understand who West Lincoln is, where we are, the fact that we are a rural municipality with a very small population and a very large geographic area in Niagara, because we are trying to represent us and our needs. So this past year, as the year before, we went to the Infrastructure Ministry and we went to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing with the same thing in mind, trying to get infrastructure in place to be able to start growing some housing. We went with the approach regarding housing because we know that that's what the province is interested in doing. Did we make any inroads? Who knows? We do know that our grant did not receive but that was before we went to AMO. But we've also had feedback now from both the ministry and also from our local MPP about resubmitting, which is what I was alluding to, and we're now strengthening that. So who knows what the end result will be? We hope that that may work out.
Madam Mayor, that's why we have an MPP, because I think it's more effective, you doing all this time and effort. Go see Sam. Sam goes directly to Dad, and he can talk to him about what's going on, and we can get things
Okay,
done. But
okay,
right now,
that's-
that's the indirect way is AMO.
No.
The direct way is through our MPP who's supposed to represent us.
No, the proper way is AMO as well. Anyway, Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess through you to the councillor, I get the question. I understand perhaps, if you haven't been there, you really don't know. I will say my first meeting would have been early last term. I believe it was with Minister Rod Phillips at the time, and it was regarding I believe it's our OSIP grant that we received, that we rely on actually. And there was talks about it actually being removed or greatly reduced, which actually contributes to savings of 14% on our tax base. And so when myself and other representatives went there to speak to the importance of what that did for our community, we saw no reduction in that. I feel like sometimes these wins, they don't get recognized because we're not, necessarily running back and saying, hey, look, we can connect the dots, as our CEO said.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, A plus B equals C. That doesn't really kind of come out that way. It's more the advocation for our community, much to the greater sense of you as a business person yourself, former vice president of a major corporation would understand it be as if you guys did no marketing for your corporation. Right? And so if you don't do any marketing for your corporation, no advocacy for your company, how does your company survive? How does your company grow? And I would continue to say, the advocacy we do at the province is in the best interest of our residents, because essentially, whether we get it that year or 10 years from now, we're essentially saving money off the tax base when that comes out. Now, there's, like you said, there's 444 municipalities. Everyone's chomping at the bit there, and there's only so much money that goes around. There's one taxpayer. And so I think it's important that we continue to have that representation there, because if we don't show up, we're essentially telling them, we don't need your support, we're good. And we kind of moved ourselves from the table, and we made it easy for them to say, hey, we don't need to worry about these guys who are no longer coming to the table because they got it figured out. We're going to deal with the 443 who don't have it figured out, right? So I think you need to kind of look at it. And I'd also ask you to maybe put your money where your mouth is and join us one time. And I think you'd actually really appreciate the Bear Pit. The Bear Pit's the opportunity where councillors or representative officials can go up and ask the ministers in a one-by-one forum there those tough questions. And they get grilled on the spot, and they respond. So I think you, of all people, of all members of council, would really appreciate the Bear Pit, because it's a 2-hour, I think it's about 2 hours or 90 minutes, where we get access to them on a one-on-one in a big auditorium, and they get asked really tough questions, and they have to respond to it. So it'd be right up your alley. For the 6 years I've known you, I think you would actually love to have one locally here. So anyways, those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else further into it? Councillor Chichok.
I think most of what could be said has been said, and I don't disagree with anything either my colleague or the CAO has said. But one thing that I think we need not overlook is, one, our local representatives say to us, help me to make a strong voice to my colleagues in caucus. So we've been asked by our own representative, our own MPP, who's now a minister, to stay there, stay the course, and say it strong. Because together we are stronger than alone. And 444 voices times about 4 or 5 people, plus staff and various other people, make a very strong voice. One thing that really struck me in the past year, Madam Mayor, although it was at Roma, which is the same organization, was that in having that strong voice, the province moved back and away from taking natural gas out of houses. Brand new houses, as effective January 1st, 2025, were no longer to have natural gas. But guess what? Our electrical grid is not big enough to be able to fuel the heating needs of those houses. So the province heard that loud and strong, and before we left, those 444 municipalities got told that there would be natural gas to continue to be in rural, ground-related product until a foreseeable future when enough electricity would be there to support the entirety of the new builds. Secondly, we got a new provincial policy statement, which, well, I would say may not be ideal, but it was a different one. And it pushed back further because of the voice of the common man and of a number of people, but also the 444 municipalities who said, this is not good, And all of this back and forth needs to be clarified. So the province backed off on a number of things. And that's not just because we, West Lincoln, were there, but we were one of the voices. And now, while it's not perfect, it's different. And yes, we would like it to go further. And yes, we would like to have more money from the province to kickstart our growth. But the province heard that from about 440 municipalities that were there. And I do believe that we were heard, because they want us, as one of the biggest growth areas in Niagara, to be going forward. So I understand, and I do understand how you might think that it's a loss of time, and certainly standing and talking to the people in the hallways where more work gets done than in there, and where staff members ask you questions from the province and from the political staff, you feel forlorn because you didn't get what you wanted. But what you did get was a nod to open the door to come and meet again after the conference was over. So if I can give, that was 3 things, Councillor Rayner, and I would tell you that while we can't measure it, as we go through the balance of our term, we're likely to, we should find out how many times the mayor gets a call from our own representative to ask what he can do to help us, because that's how things get done at the province, not by one municipality, but by 443 others, saying, together we are strong, and this is what we need.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment on that? Okay, so do any other members of council have remarks?
If we go past 7:13, I do apologize to my dear colleague, but it was by his question that we got past 7:13.
A point well made, Councillor. Do you have anything further, Councillor Chichok, that you want to bring up this evening?
Let me see if I can talk slowly.
Let's be taped, so it's okay.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I will talk briefly about the Rural Economic Development Roundtable that was held last week in Lincoln, where approximately 30 of our colleagues from around the Niagara area were invited to come and meet with Minister Pinsonneau and Minister Osterhoff to talk about the needs of rural communities and to allow them to grow and prosper by what it is they wanted to say. I think a direct fallout from the recent AMO meeting. But, and whether we grow to be growing in commercial and industrial land development, or how we could work together to help one another in ways that would collectively bring new opportunities to ourselves, our neighboring municipalities, and or the entirety of Niagara, was discussed. In fact, a very, I would say, a very interesting and busy group of people had a full array of suggestions about what we could do when they were in attendance, and the participants were many and broad in nature and brought a great scope of opportunities that should be looked in. And I can tell you that notes were made by the ministers, by their staff, and they went home, I think, with not Christmas turning in their head, but in fact what it is that they were going to have to do to address what it was that was brought forward by the 30 participants at the event. So let's hope that what they heard will be embraced by them and brought forward in cabinet, and that some of what they said, I wrote this before my colleague was talking about AMO, but this is the kind of thing that is the fallout of AMO. And I hope and I expect that some of what we said and some of what we brought forward will be embraced and taken into consideration for the future of Niagara and all the communities in Ontario.
Thank you. Councillor Riley, anything this evening?
I think you kind of covered a couple of things I was going to mention regarding, I guess I'll go a little bit more in depth with Miranda's Miracles there, but I was able to join the mayor for the flag raising there, and wanted to really mention what an incredible organization. They're one of the very few organizations that give pretty much near 100% of what they fundraise right directly towards children research, child cancer research, and they've raised almost $200,000 over the last few years there, and certainly like to hopefully we can rally behind them as a region, as a community, as a province, as a country, and help fuel that drive and take the chance to go online and read more about it. I was going to mention, I think briefly about just to begin the month being able to take part in the fair there at the Agricultural Center. Beautiful day that I went there. I can't remember what the whole weekend was this far out. It's not that long
Friday
ago.
night
but
was
I
terrible.
guess it was
That's when
Friday.
I was there.
Yeah, I was there Saturday morning.
Saturday was nicer.
And it was,
Sunday, so-so.
I think we noticed this year that, and maybe it's because it was much better weather and most people didn't go on the Friday, but it had a much bigger turnout than what I've seen in previous years. And so I thought that was worth noting. And I think that's it for now. I thought there was one other thing, but I don't think I can always bring it up next month.
Okay, I'm just going to interject and just say about the fair and the Friday night. We picked up an extra school, Smithville Public School, in the spelling bee.
Yes.
Which was really good to see. It's been pretty much the same 4 schools for the last few years, so it was really good to see Smithville Public get involved with Ruth Gretzinger, the teacher who brought the kids along. So it was
Excellent.
it was good. They did well. Okay, Councillor Trombetta, you're shaking your head. Nothing right now? Well, I thought you might want to mention Saturday.
Oh, okay, I guess I can do that if it
Yeah,
wasn't in
I
your
hope so.
remarks.
I was going to do that, but I thought you might want to.
Okay, just a reminder, everybody, Saturday, that there's a Fire Station 2 open house starting at 9 a.m. Usually they do put on a good spread of breakfast, and, I would suggest all everybody that do come out and see our new fire hall in Caister there, which is a good thing for all residents, and not just in our ward, but in every ward. So please make your way out there for Saturday morning between 9 and 11. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for reminding me that.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Broderick.
Yes, just one thing, a reminder to the community, or a notice to the community if they're not aware, that this Thursday, September the 26th, from 6 to 9, at the West Lincoln Public Library, there is an open house in regards to the development of the Recreation and Parks Plan. So it's the opportunity for the community to have their voice heard, and, help to, build a common understanding of the issues and empower our residents to have their say in the future in the township in regards to Parks and Rec. So again, that's at the West Lincoln Public Library at the Community Center in Smithville from 6 till 9 at 177 West Street.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so the last thing I want to add is that next Monday, September 30th, is a National Truth and Reconciliation Day, also known as Orange Shirt Day. The township offices are closed that day. The flag will be raised on Friday, and then the flags are lowered to half-mast over the weekend, and then will be raised again on Monday. So if people are wondering why the flags are up and down and what's going on the weekend, that has to do with Orange Shirt Day and Truth and Reconciliation Time. Okay, I think that's it, unless, Mr. CAO, you have an announcement of some sort, or Mr. Clerk, either of you? Okay, all righty. So, are there any new items of business? Seeing none, that takes us to bylaws, and I need someone to move the bylaws, please. There's been no one assigned. Councillor Riley, thank you. And I guess we'll do a seconder at the same time. Councillor Rayner, you sort of nodded, okay, so thank you. Okay, bylaws,
So I guess
thank you.
I'll mention is the conflict I disclosed. I'm just trying to skip through the see which one is that covered. Do we have to pull that out and vote on that separately?
No, I
No.
don't
Okay.
think
So I
there's
just wanted to
there's
make
not a
sure.
bylaw associated with those.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't see one here, but it's also
No.
skimming through it really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so move by myself, that leave be granted to introduce bylaws 2024-55, 2024-56, 2024-57, 2024-58, 2024-59, 2024-60, 2024-61, 2024-62, 2024-63, 2024-64, 2024-65, and 2024-66, and that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and are hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder, and so unless there are any questions about bylaws, we can just move to the vote. Okay, and that resolution carries. And there are no confidential matters this evening, and so I'm going to adjourn this meeting at the hour of 7:21. Sorry, Councillor Rayner, we didn't quite make your time, but
No, that was my fault, Madam Mayor.
that's well taken. That point is well taken. Anyway, thank you.